Right, good evening folks, and welcome to the 2018 edition of the Coronation Double Century Rider Brief. My name's Dave Belaise, and alongside me is...
I'm Donovan Everett, the race director for the event.
And we're going to be talking you through the rules and regulations for the 2018 Coronation Double Century. We will be picking up your queries on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, so please feel free to drop us a note. We have a whole team sitting in the background over there, and they're going to be sending the stuff through to us. Occasionally, you will hear a voice interjecting. It's our good friend John Gericke, who's helping us host this broadcast. John, a previous entrant in the Coronation Double Century. So if you do hear his voice,
in the background,
that's John. So John will be passing on any of those queries to us, and we will do our very best to answer those. So, Don, I think, shall we kick off?
Yes, let's get going.
So that's us. You've seen us. Now you know what we look like again. The items we're going to be covering in this broadcast this evening: pre-race arrangements, that's the registration and rateback number collection; the rider offering, that's the gift from our generous sponsors that you'll be receiving; the race day, what to expect at the start; road closures, route information; ROADWORKS, refreshments and feeding stations; team sport vehicles, routes and rules; team support zones, that's at Ashton and Bonnievale, that's where your team will come and support you.
And then in terms of the logistics, we're going to be looking at the cut-offs, the sweep operation, mechanical support en route, as well as the medical support and what to do in case of emergency, and then heading on to aspects of the finish, and then finishing up with the Q&A session.
Right, moving straight on to registration and a race pack and number collection. There are 3 registrations, folks. Please take note. There are 3 registrations, and you will be collecting your numbers at any one of these 3. Probably the most important to note, and it's going to come up on the next slide as well, is that you will not be able to collect your race number on the Saturday morning of the event. So the first registration is Tuesday, the 20th of November. That's next Tuesday, and that will be taking place at the Cape Town Cycle to a Trust offices here in Rondebosch. That's 65 Avenue de Mist, Rondebosch. That's between 2 and 7 o'clock. Send your team captain or a designated individual to collect your race packs. Registration 2 will be on Wednesday in the northern suburbs of Cape Town. That's the 21st of November at Belleville Golf Club, Jup de Jager Drive in Velgemoot, between 2 and 7 o'clock once again. And then registration 3 will be on Friday the 23rd of November out in Swellendam at the Swellendam Showgrounds, where the event is starting and finishing, and that'll be in the main hall, which is right opposite the big food tent. Parking will be available at the school adjacent to the showgrounds off Station Street, so you can get in there, and our registration will open at 12 and will be open right the way through until 8 o'clock. Now please remember that registration will not be open on the morning, on the Saturday morning of the event. So if you as the team captain are unable to get through to Swellendam or any of the other 2 registrations, please make sure that you designate one of your team members to go and collect the race numbers and distribute them to your team. That is vitally important. They will also be collecting, and this is more for the teammates, they will be collecting your rider offering. So just make sure your teammates aren't disappearing with your special gifts. Okay, on to the registration information. Don.
Yeah, there's a couple of important things to remember here. The registration, number collection, will be done per team, so that's per team and not per individual. The team changes and substitutions, there will be a cost of 200 Rand per change or substitution. Please do remember to have the team members' details with you. As far as support vehicle accreditation packs, you need to have a car and driver's details on hand. And then important, no registration, race pack collection will be done on race day morning. So that's a vitally important thing. On race day morning, unfortunately, there's going to be no rider registration or race pack collection. So please remember that.
Right, on to the rider offering. A lot more simple this year, but just as valuable. Each rider will be receiving a pair of Coronation socks. These have been sponsored. Again, all the gifts that you'll be receiving have been sponsored by our naming right sponsor, Coronation, and we're hugely grateful to them for that. So there'll be a pair of Coronation cycling socks. There's a pre- and post-race water bottle, branded, a very nice water bottle, as well as a rechargeable rear light. This is a NOG rechargeable safety light. I think you'll find that extremely useful, and that can be charged in your PC, which is quite unique. Another important aspect that we will be allocating to each team is 2 bags of ice. Now, for those of you that have ridden the Coronation Double Century before, you will know full well that temperatures in the area can reach well over 30, 35 degrees. Those 2 bags of ice can come in extremely useful. So make sure that you collect your ice either on the Friday evening at registration area, on the stoep outside registration, or alternatively, if you want to, on the Saturday morning. Once your team has gone, your team support vehicle can send somebody in to collect your 2 bags of ice. You may purchase additional ice should you need, but you will certainly be able to pick up your 2 free bags of ice. Right, on the rider offering, you'll also receive and this is a new addition this year. Coronation have agreed that every team that finishes on the field, there will be a backdrop. Now, in years past, you've been able to stop just after the finish line up at the top of Swellendam and have your photograph taken in front of a backdrop. That backdrop will now be down after you've received your medal on the field down in Swellendam. So make sure your whole team heads down. Your photograph will be taken, and that photograph will then be emailed to your team captain, who will forward the link onto the entire team, who will be able to download an official team finishes photograph for every team finishing the Coronation double century this year. So please make sure from the finish line down to the field, and then look for that backdrop that will be down there.
Okay, also please don't forget that there'll be official Coronation double century merchandise on sale. That'll be at all the registrations as well as post-event. So bring some cash along. We've got some great tracksuit tops and some caps that'll be available to the men and ladies.
Right, we're going to move through this as fast as we can. We're heading on to the start, and I'm going to hand over to Donovan to talk you through some of the key elements there.
Yeah, so just basically to touch on the travelling times come sort of race day and pre-race day. We've just got an outline of various road closures and times that you need to adhere to. Obviously, when you're heading down there, there's quite a few road closures, as well as we've mentioned the fact that that there's been some construction. So please be aware of the times when you're travelling from these respective regions and how long it's going to take you to get to the actual start ground when you are obviously planning your approach. In terms of road closures, we've also got a table outlined over here, which is quite extensive, which gives you the exact roads as well as the times of closure. So also please take these into consideration when you are planning your approach to the race. Okay, as far as race day, Dave, do you want to handle this one?
Right, race day, parking. Remember that there is no parking at the showground on the morning, and there will be limited parking in the school in Station Street, so you'll be able to make your way across to that if you do need to park the car. In most instances, the team vehicles will head out on the route. Please make note of the travel times and the road closures that Donovan has referred to. These will be in the race packs, as well as online. You'll be able to have a look at those. Please make sure that you know how long it's going to take you and where you need to be. There is, as I've mentioned before, a last chance to collect your ice on the stoep outside the registration hall on the Saturday morning. And if you haven't done so on the Friday, or if you've decided that you want to buy some more, head down and do the same. Please keep your eyes peeled. As riders, keep your eyes peeled for the team photo backdrop so you know where you can go to. There will also be an opportunity for you to have your photograph taken beforehand. However, the official photograph that you will receive will be that photograph that's taken of you at the finish after you've finished, with that lovely medal hanging around your neck. And then a key element, we talk about loading into the start chute a minimum of 20 minutes before your time. Personally, I would err on the side of 30 minutes, but make sure you are in that start chute 20 minutes before your actual race time the gun is due to go. So that's 20 minutes before the start. Right, your collection of ice, we've mentioned it before. If you look at the screen now, you'll see my cursor is moving across to the little yellow area there, marked ice. You'll come in from Station Street on this side, where the arrow is, walk straight down past the grandstand, and the ice will be on that stoep that you see over there. Right, Donovan, important things.
Yes, so 4 things you need to start with, and this is obviously vital for your race. Naturally, your official Coronation double century race number. Without this, you won't be allowed to ride. Your race tech chip, as well as your number board, and then obviously your helmet. Please don't forget mechanical spares. There will be mechanical support en route. However, this is very superficial and really retains to sort of pumps. Also, remember, one team starts at a time, 30 seconds apart. Your allocated team start time is your start time and not when you cross over the start mat. So please be aware of that fact as well.
Just very quickly, I'd like to add in there, for the purposes of those that are riding the Coronation double century for the first time, the number is placed on the back of your jersey over the pockets, low down, and must be visible at all times, so make sure that you've pinned it on the back of your jersey. The small number board goes on the front of the handlebars. There will be cable ties on there for you to lock that onto the front of the handlebars, and that's vitally important from a visual perspective, that we're able to see you from the front and know who you are. There'll be photographers en route, and they'll be getting photographs of people. It's also an identification of your bike if your bike is left somewhere and we pick it up. So please make sure that that is adhered to. Don, back to you.
Okay, so moving on to the route, we're breaking the route up into 3 sections, and we're going to be covering this over the next 10 minutes or so. So in terms of section 1, we'll be starting in Swellendam. You head out of Swellendam onto the N2. Please just be aware, when you get onto the N2, you've got the early morning sun rising, which will be coming into your eyes. You'll also be having oncoming traffic as well, so please be aware of the traffic as well as your safety. Don't bunch in the road, please keep to the road shoulder. You'll be leaving the N2 and then heading back along towards Seerbruck, along the R322, and then you'll head up to Barrydale via the R324. From Barrydale, via the R62, you'll then head to Optradado, which is the first feed station, and then carrying on along the R62. Okay, so in terms of section 2, as you're coming along that R62, you'll head towards Montague. And as in past years, Montague, between Montague and Ashton is a neutral zone. So please, as you head into Montague, please be aware that there are timing mats here, and look out for the indicators stating that it is a neutral zone. You'll be required to slow down. Dave will go into the specifics of what is required in the rules and regulations within this neutral zone. You'll head through the neutral zone towards Ashton. When you get into Ashton, it'll be the first team support zone. From that point, you'll then head out on the R60 towards Robertson, and then head down towards Van Leveren, which is the really beautiful part of the race, towards Rooibrug.
Right, I'm going to talk you through the roadworks, and it's quite important, folks. For those that didn't ride last year, you won't be aware of what is going on in the Montague-Ashton area. So we've introduced, as we did last year, a neutral zone between the town of Montague and the town of Ashton. And the reason for that is safety, and also it was a requirement of the contracting engineers and the provincial government that we move through the roadworks in a neutral fashion and not under race mode. It is very important to know that our route permissions were given on that basis, so please, if you could adhere to that. So what we've done is, between Montague and Ashton, you have a 30-minute period in which you are not being timed. You will enter, as you come into Montague and Van Riebeek Road, you'll cross across some timing mats. Your time will stop at that point. Between there and Ashton, which is probably a length of about 11 kilometers, you have 30 minutes to travel to get to Ashton. You may not exceed 30 kilometers an hour through the Montague-Ashton area, and that's through the Kochmanskloof. The good news is that most of the gravel in that area has been tarred over with a temporary tar layer, so you won't be riding on gravel roads, but please bear in mind it's not a smooth tarmac surface. So there, as I've said, there'll be timing mats that will time you into that area, and then there'll be a second timing which will time you into the feed zone at Ashton. Your time will then start for 30 minutes in that feed zone. So you have 30 minutes to get to Ashton, 30 minutes in the feed zone. It's a total of 1 hour to rest and recover, and the teammates that you've dropped can then catch up with you. Okay, the roadworks themselves through the Kochmanskloof, just ensure that you have sufficient spares with you. If you do need to get off and walk, please make sure you keep as far left as possible. No more than cycling 2 abreast through Ashton. Now, through the pass, the road is closed. We have a road closure for the duration of that section, so you may move past each other in an orderly fashion, but once you exit the Kochmanskloof and you head into Ashton, the road is open to traffic again. So folks, please, 2 abreast. It's probably a stretch of about 2 k's that will take you down into the feed zone at the other side of Ashton, past where the roadworks are taking place. And as I've mentioned before, the road is not in great condition. Please keep your eyes open and ears open and listening to warnings from your friends. And then exercise extreme caution. Listen to the marshals and you will be fine. Don.
Okay, as far as section 3 is concerned, which is the last stage of the route, you'll be heading from Van Leveren on the R317 towards Bonnievale, then from Bonnievale to Drew, where there will be the last refreshment station, And then along the R60, I'd like to say downhill to the finish, but you've got the Three Sisters to contend with, so please make sure that as far as your hydration is concerned and your nutrition is concerned, that you've taken enough on board to get you through this last stage of the race. From the Three Sisters, you'll head literally down towards Swellendam, where there's a last little bit of an uphill to the finish line. Also, please just be aware, once you go through the finish line, they have put a new speed bump in place about 20 meters past the finish line. So if you do come rearing through there, just please be aware that there is a speed bump that's now in place there.
Thanks, Don. Right, stops along the route. Vitally important, especially on an event of 200 kilometers long. So there are a number of points where you'll be supported by your own team vehicles, and there are a number of points that we have laid refreshments on for you, as well as one particular point where we will have food. Let me take you through them. The first big climb is the Trudeau Pass, and at the top of that, at 32 kilometers, we will have a refreshment station fairly early on, but it'll allow you to fill your water bottles before you head out towards Robertson, towards Barrydale, and then on to Montague over the Trudeau Pass. At the top of the Trudeau Pass, at 65 kilometers, there's a non-compulsory feeding area. There we will have said, as I mentioned possibly earlier, there will be baby potatoes, and there'll be some food available for you to chew on if you didn't have enough breakfast before you left. So there will be water, there'll be toilets. It's also a great place to meet up with your teammates who have fallen off heading up the Trudeau Pass. A lot of teams use it purely for that. So it's a great opportunity just to rest, recoup before you head into Montague. Then the next feed zone is after you've passed through Montague and into Ashton. That is the team support zone where your team will be meeting you. Remember that the team areas are laid out in groups of 10, and they are numerically from 1 through to team 290. Don't be confused, there are 262 teams that will be starting. However, the numbering, we leave gaps to be able to cater for changes. So if you are team 1 to 10, you'll obviously be in the first block at the beginning of the feed zone. If you're team 200, move quietly and orderly through the team feeding zone towards the back where your team would have set up its vehicle and your food. Then after that, you leave Ashton, you head towards Robertson Circle, the left turn, down past Springfield, Van Loveren, and you will take the right turn at Rooibrug. Now at Rooibrug, we have a water station which will be set up specifically for the riders in the midday to latter early part of the afternoon. It gets very hot out in the Robertson Valley, and we've laid on some water there should you be dropped by your team and need some additional support. So bear in mind that will be there for you. Then you get to the Bonnievale team support zone. Once again, entering that, you will be ordered, and look for the signs on the left. Very clearly marked. You'll see team 1 to 10. If you're team 1 to 10, that's where your team's going to be. Team 150 to 160, sort of approximately halfway through. So keep your eyes peeled, and you'll see your team on the left-hand side of the road. Then from Bonnievale, it's a short hop, 16 k's to Drew. At Drew, there will be a water station with limited feeding as well. There's normally some baked potatoes there for you. And again, that feed station for the racing teams, not too much of an issue. But for the slow guys like myself and the slower teams, you're going to be using that water station fairly extensively. It's probably the most used water station on the route, and it's only 16 k's after you've been feeding. But as I've mentioned before, it gets fairly warm out there. Right, safety first. There are 3 main descents that you need to be cautious of on the Coronation Double Century. The first is the descent of the Trudeau Pass. It's a fairly, not technical, it's a fairly swift descent with a number of unsighted turns. Please make sure that you're extremely cautious down this section of the route. We will have marshals with whistles and flags positioned down that to make sure that you are on your toes and keeping yourself sharp. No need to go herring down there and trying to make up 2 or 3 seconds. You can make that up on the flat or on the climb of Trudeau. The second descent is the one that can get particularly hair-raising, especially if the wind is blowing, and that is the descent off the top of Trudeau. Now, the reason that is a little more technical is that if there's a wind blowing, it tends to come at you from the side, and it's a very exposed descent. So if you've got deep section rims, folks, take it very easy down that particular descent. And again, I would urge caution. Remember that the road is open to traffic, and you're going to need to make sure that you're watching out for oncoming cars. We've said this before, we'll say it again. On areas like this, you may not cross the white line. Please, teams that are slower, keep to the left-hand side. Teams that are passing, do so in an orderly fashion and make sure that there's no oncoming traffic. Then the third descent is the descent into Montague, and the reason we raise that, it's not a particularly difficult descent. The wind does come at you from the side, but at the bottom of that descent you have a sharp left turn into Van Riebeck Road. So the marshals will be in place. You will see all the warnings as you head in, but be aware as you head into Montague there's going to be a sharp left turn into Van Riebeck Road. Through the Kochmanskloof, obviously one of the areas we are concerned about because of the roadworks, so be aware of that. Into the Ashton team support zone. Very important to stress, when you head into a team support zone, the reason we're giving you 30 minutes in the team support zone is to take the angst out of it, to take the racing out of it. We want you to get into the team support zone. We want you to move down quietly, find your vehicle, refill your bottles, have something to eat, rub the legs down if you need to, 5 or 10 minutes rest, and then head out. But it's about taking the energy out of the team support zones. We want them to be relaxed and areas of calm. Then the R317 before Van Loveren, the roadworks there completed. Don and the team have been working very closely with the roads engineers, and that road's in particularly good condition. The Bonnievale team support zone, again, be careful as you move through that. And then the stretch after the Bonnievale team support zone is an area we want to highlight. It's the only time that you and your team support vehicles will be mixed up together. It's an area of about 1.5 to 2 k's before the riders will turn left to Drew and the team support vehicles will head off in the Stormsplay direction. So please make sure that you're aware of the vehicles around you, and we ask team support drivers to be careful of the cyclists as they head towards Drew. Right, rules of the road, no more than 2 abreast. These are open roads for the most part. Teams that are passing, teams that are slow, keep to the left-hand side, into the yellow line where possible. Teams that are coming past, come past in 2s. If there's a team in front of you overtaking a team already, wait until that overtaking has taken place before you pass that team. There's nothing worse than seeing 2 or 3 teams trying to overtake each other simultaneously with large trucks coming into you in the opposite direction. It's irresponsible, it's dangerous, and it risks us having our road permissions pulled for the event. So folks, please work with us in this. Listen to all marshals. We will have motorbike marshals on the route keeping an eye on you, and they will be calling in numbers to the jock of people transgressing the rules. Take note of the caution signage and marshals indicating potholes and turns that will be on the route on the way. Right, Don, team support zone map.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, this is quite an important map that's up on your screen right now. I'm not going to go through the intrinsic detail. It's going to be part of the driver's pack that is given out at registration. It is not the same route that the riders are following, so please take note of that. And it's important that the team support drivers actually stick to this route. There are various penalties in place that can have a serious consequences for the various team times. So it's important that you stick to the rules and regulations. The actual map is also, well, the route itself is actually very well indicated and signposted. So if you do get lost, just follow the signs. And then as far as the rest of the rules and regulations and the do's and don'ts, that's contained within the rider's pack or the driver's pack as such. In terms of team support vehicles, just a couple of basics that you need to adhere to. Obviously, fill up your vehicle with fuel before heading out onto the route. That's a crucial aspect. Support vehicles must head straight to Ashton from the start on the R60. So from the start, you head straight to Ashton on the R60. No seconding anywhere else on the route, which will result in an immediate disqualification. And then as far as support vehicles, they need to follow prescribed route to the team support zones. The maps and rules will be in the support drivers' info packs, as I've mentioned before. Now, the next slide is also quite a detailed slide. It really is just an indication of the map that we showed earlier on, but in the little block over there, it's got very specific details which pertains to Swellendam, or getting from Swellendam to Ashton, that you need to follow. So I know that in previous years, that's normally it's whoever draws the short straw gets up to speed with the rules and regulations. So please may I request that whoever with the specific routes and the specific details. This is obviously vitally important for the success of your race in terms of your nutrition as well as your hydration to the correct routes. As far as the Ashton team support zone is concerned, for the team support vehicle to travel from Swellendam to Ashton on the R60, so that's a 40-minute drive once again. The team support zone is after the Ashton Cannery over the bridge on the main road. We expect the first, and there will also be limited water available. Just to mention that the team support zones are very well marked out, so make sure that given to you, as well as that you abide your vehicle off the road. There's a lot of vehicles. It's imperative that we retain the safe. Okay, in terms of another map indication, as well as, I'm not going to go through them right now. You can download this. We're going to have a look at it on the website, but once again, with a specific detail. Okay, so quite an important slide. This is the only cyclists that are traveling together. So they will travel, obviously abide by the rules and regulations for drivers. Do not turn left with cyclists towards Drew. So the team support drivers, please note, do not turn left with cyclists. 11 a.m. Do not turn left. Okay. Limited water will also be available. There's roadworks on the N2. Time to Swellendam may take, police is incorporated there. Punch, and then also just lastly, abide by the rules that are in place with safe route for all the riders.
Right. Feed zones at Ashton and Bonnievale, and I think that's key, more especially for those riders that have been dropped and have decided that they want to continue on. A team vehicle has left the team support zone and you've arrived there, and you need to refill your bottles and some of the end of the feed zone, and we have supplied water. Different accreditation will be issued for both Ashton and to Bonnievale. Both sets of accreditation must be applied to your vehicle, all right? Otherwise, you won't be allowed into the first or the second. So put both sets of accreditation on the back window and on the front window, as is on the screen right now. And will be moving on the same road as you in port zones. There really is no reason to rush. It's a very short hop between Ashton and their long one vehicle. Move in, set up, and your team will then. But now, again, I stress, first feed zone must go back to Swellendam. It will not be allowed into the second feed. So 2 vehicles, 2 sets on that 1 vehicle. No supporters or spectators are to follow. If a rider needs to be collected, then you need to phone into the junction. If a rider's bailing, but it's no good phoning your team vehicle and asking it to come out and fetch you somewhere on the route. That is just not permitted. In the zones, please use those. And Donovan loves this term, abluting in their fields.
Never heard of it in my life.
So, and again, absolutely critical. Keep the area clean. Leave it as you found it.
Dave, I just need to interrupt this voice that's coming from nowhere. We're just having a little technical.
What's that? In the words of the guys from Houston, we have a problem. We had a problem. I do believe we're back with you, and we are talking through the general team support zone rules. So again, we've been through most of those. I'm going to run through them very quickly. Remember that there's 2 sets of accreditation, 1 for each team support zone. If you have 1 vehicle, both sets of accreditation on that vehicle. If you have 2 vehicles, 1 set on each, and only the vehicle that has the set pertinent to the area it's going into will be allowed into that area. That means that the team support vehicle at team support zone 1 will need to move back to Swellendam and wait for the team, while the other is sitting at team support zone 2 at Bonnievale. Right, please adhere to the traffic and speed regulations between the support zones. That's between Ashton and Bonnievale. No supporters or spectators to follow teams or feed along the route at all, and there will be limited toilet facilities in those team support zones. Please make sure you use those facilities. I'm too scared to use the word. The farmers get a little upset if you're abluting in their field. So we have those.
And the system crashed. So keep it tidy.
We'll keep it tidy. Right. And to that point, please make sure that you're leaving the area as you found it, clean and void of litter. Vitally important. If we're going to be allowed to come back through these areas, we need to make sure we're leaving them as we found them. And please be considerate, as these stops space is extremely limited. Now, I'm going to talk you through this photograph because it speaks very clearly to what you should and shouldn't do at a team support zone. Team support zones are allocated by team number, and they are allocated in areas of 10 teams per area. You have approximately 8 meters per team. Now, In that picture, you'll see a car that is parked longitudinally along the road, and he's managed to lay out all his team support cool boxes at the side of the road in such a way that in actual fact what he's doing is impinging on everybody else's area to park their car and feed their riders. So make sure you're not that person. We don't want to say that guy, but that person. And that you're using the space as frugally as possible so that you're affording the other teams that are coming through the opportunity to feed as well. All right, parking bays, as I said, are allocated according to race number. Remember your team's race number, and you'll be able to find it very easily. Park off the road on the left-hand side. Each team is allocated only 10 meters. In actual fact, it's between 8 and 10 meters to park and set up their support space. Park in your designated area and respect the other team support vehicles also have a right to park. And there we've said it, you have 8 meters of allocated space. Don't spread out your cooler boxes and take up the entire team support zone. You will end up in a boxing match with somebody. Don, on to rules.
Yeah, so as far as rule infringements are concerned, commissaires and the marshals on motorbikes will be monitoring cyclists and team support vehicles. Offences will be called into the venue operations centre on the number on your screen right now. All offences will be logged. If a complaint has been logged against the support vehicle, the team captain and or the team support driver must report to the VOC post-race. It's also important to remember that teams may be disqualified if support vehicles break the rules. Now, just if I look at last year, there were a couple of infringements, and our guys on the BMW motorbikes were taking footage, they were filming, they took camera footage as well, and they got reported into the commissaires. So please just abide by the rules, be aware that the commissaires as well as the BMW bike support riders are there for your safety. So please just look out for them and adhere to exactly what they are instructing you to do. Okay.
Sorry,
So
Don.
skip the slide there. So cyclists withdrawing from the event, cyclists withdrawing from the race at either Ashton or Bonnievale team support zones may be transported to the finish by their own team support vehicle. Please call the VOC once you are in your support vehicle so that we know you are safe. That's obviously vitally important. We know all the riders are out on the route and we need to account for all the riders. So if you do climb into your vehicles or at any stage because of medical incidents, please report this into the VOC. You will have the number within your driver support pack, as well as a rider, you will also have that VOC number. As far as the cut-offs are concerned, there are various cut-offs in place, obviously once again for the safety of cyclists. Now the cut-offs are really sort of monitored and implemented by the VOC, and there are a couple of things that have an impact on this, and that being weather-related, heat, cold, etc., as to whether we bring these times forward or not for the safety of cyclists. So as far as the current cut-off times are concerned, we have the first cut-off at the Optredo feeding station at 10 a.m. The second one is at Ashton Team Support Zone at 12:30. The third is at the Bonnievale Team Support Zone at 2:30. And then the Drew feeding station at 3:30, and then finally at the finish at 4:30. So just in terms of those cut-offs, please just be aware of them. So when you are planning a race, or if you do have a couple of team members that are struggling along, just be aware of those cut-off times. They'll be implemented very strictly. As far as the sweep operation is concerned, the sweep operation really just pertains to our sweep vehicles and the trailers. So if you don't make it the cut-off times, you'll be then swept by these vehicles. Cyclists must call the VOC on the number on your screen now, and a sweep will be dispatched to collect cyclists should they be unable to continue anywhere on the route, excluding the team support zone. So just once again, if you're not in the team support zone and you have a medical incident and you're not feeling well enough to continue, please call the number to the VOC. We will then get your location and we'll dispatch a sweep vehicle to come and pick you up. Cyclists who are cut off will also be directed to sweep vehicles. That's important to note. And then lastly, cyclists may not continue to cycle the route after the respective cut-offs have been implemented, obviously for your own safety as well. Dave?
So Don has spoken about calling in so that you're advising that you can't continue and you want to be swept. Here's a very crucial point to remember. If you phoned the VOC and you've advised people that you're stopping, they're going to be sending a sweep vehicle and they've noted what your position is. Please don't leave that position. There's nothing more frustrating than riding up and down a section of the route looking for a rider that's waiting to be swept, who's actually decided they're now feeling better, have got back on their bike and decided to ride. If that is the case, pick up the phone, phone the VOC, and let them know that you are moving on under your own steam. That way we can withdraw the vehicle that's been sent to get you. So please remember that. Sorry, Don.
Yeah, no, it's also just important, just to add to what Dave said there, is that the VOC is the control center of the event. So we have medical, we have fire, we have emergency, we have traffic, all sitting within that building with us. So it's vitally important that you don't go and phone a hospital or another friend to come pick you up, that you actually phone the VOC, and we are able to manage the situation from the VOC, and we are aware of where you are en route. Okay, as far as mechanical support is concerned, a pop-up bike shop with a mechanic will be at the race village on Friday and Saturday morning before the race. Please remember this. It is situated next to the main hall on the showgrounds. So if you have any mechanicals and you've received your bike from the transport and you want a couple of things fixed, please go along to that mechanic and he'll be able to help you out. We'll also have mobile mechanics with limited spares. That's why we encourage you to carry some spares with you, which will be stationed at the APPROXIMATE and Kochmanskloof. It's also important to remember to make sure your team have enough mechanical spares as mentioned for any emergencies along the route.
Okay, I'm going to say this lightheartedly, and I say it every year. This is not the Tour de France, the Giro d'Italia, or the Vuelta. There won't be a Mavic support vehicle sweeping in behind you as you have a puncture. So if you have a puncture, you're going to be repairing it yourself. If you're caught out there on your own, the team has left you. As Don has mentioned, there will be some mobile mechanics moving through with limited spares. But folks, it's a 200k route. It's not possible to have mechanics at every single point. Unfortunately, ASO in France won't give us the Mavic team support. So we're on our own here. Don.
Yeah, as far as medical support, which is also very important on the day itself, we have 5 doctors and nurses that are in place. We have 7 ambulances with paramedics. We have additional motorbike paramedics on the Trudeau Pass and Kochmanskloof stretch, as well as we've got advanced life support medical point at Bonnievale Cellars. We have a full medical facility at the Swellendam Showgrounds, and then we have paramedics on the sweep vehicles as well. And then lastly, we have finish line medics. So as far as the medical contingency is concerned, you are very well taken care of. So please make use of those facilities or those personnel that are involved to help you recover. And then this is probably the most important slide out of the whole presentation, the emergency numbers. So if you can, please get your cell phones out right now. Take down these numbers. You are going to get given them within your registration packs and your driver support packs as well. They'll also be on your accreditation, but if you can take them down now, please do. So we have 2 numbers here, which is the VOC numbers. One is the medical emergency number, which is what you phone in case of a medical emergency, and then the other is the general inquiry number. So please, riders, take this down. Support drivers, please also take this down, and then once again, it will be in your registration and support driver packs as well. Dave?
Yeah, just very quickly on that. I know Don gets extremely frustrated sitting in that jock. If you're phoning to find out where your ice bag is or how you should get to Ashton, do not phone the medical emergency line.
Please
folks,
don't.
please. That medical emergency line is there to cater for medical emergencies. If you can't get through to the general inquiry line, that means there are a lot of people that are confused and are trying to phone the general inquiry line. Don't phone the medical emergency line unless it is a medical emergency. Keep that clear for obvious reasons. Right, moving on to the finish. We expect the first riders in Swellendam at around 1:30. We expect the last riders in Swellendam, I'll be there to welcome them, at 4:30. It's a long day out, folks. The finish line, remember, the actual finish line is not down at the Swellendam Showgrounds. It's up at Van Eerden Street. It's at the top of Swellendam after a little short climb, which we've put in there just to keep everything real. There's a neutral zone that will take you from that all the way down to the showgrounds, and at the showgrounds, Jetline Action Photo will be stationed in the race village with a backdrop where you can gather the team together with your medals and you can get your photograph taken. And as I've said before, that photograph will be emailed free of charge to your team captain, who will then distribute it to the rest of the team. So here's a map just to walk you through it. You'll see my cursor on screen now. On the left hand side, you're going to be coming down Murray Street. That's the neutral zone from the finish line at the top of the hill. You'll travel down Murray Street up a short little climb, and then you'll be entering into Cooper Street and Somerset Road. Now Somerset Road is where you would have started in the morning. Down Somerset Road, there'll be a big arch across the road, and you'll take a left turn into the showgrounds. There you will receive your Coca-Cola, your medal, and you'll be able to drop your bicycle in the bike park. Very important to remember that we won't allow bikes into the general area of where the food and catering is taking place, and that's primarily because we want to keep the fields for people to sit on and not for bicycles to lie all over. There's a secure bike park in this area here. You may leave your bike there. Alternatively, if you're not happy with that, exit the showgrounds, drop it in your car, and then come back in to get your free foods. That's is sponsored by Fresh Stop and Coronation, kindly sponsored by both of them. Or if you're taking your bicycle onto the long haul bike collection, which is under the grandstand over here, you may move your bike through there. But this area around the Coronation Snack Shack, you will not be allowed to leave your bikes. There will be marshals moving around, keeping you moving. That's why we've provided this comprehensive bike park. So looking at the finished venue, it's at the Swelland Game Showgrounds. You'll get your Coke, medal, food and drink vouchers, the meal, dessert, and ice cold drink, sponsored by Coronation and Fresh Stop jointly. That's a fresh food offering that will be there. You can collect that and head out to the big Bedouin tent that'll be on the field. I've mentioned the secure bike park. This must be used. Massages and complimentary post-race recovery will be there. It'll be operating between 11:30 and 5 o'clock. This is on a first-come, first-served basis. And folks, our stress is very limited. Right, important to a lot of teams over the last number of years is the Charles Milner Medal. The Charles Milner Medal is allocated to teams who start and finish with all 12 riders. The last rider must finish within 10 minutes of the first team rider crossing the line. So they must finish within 10 minutes of that first team rider. The idea behind this is it's a journey. The Coronation Double Century is a journey of 202 kilometers, and the idea is to get your whole team across all in one piece. Not all of us are able to race and podium, and this is a wonderful way of recognizing the camaraderie of a 12-man team. The Charles Milner medals can be collected from the info area inside the hall at the showgrounds from 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock on the day of the event, and that'll be just before prize giving, and from 5 to 6 just after prize giving. Each year, we introduced it about 2 years ago, is the Van Loveren Award for the best team spirit, and that's just to add some fun. For a lot of us, this isn't a race, it's a survival, and this was best encompassed by the Team 5 of Fairies from Van Loveren, funnily enough, after whom the trophy is named, who really took it to heart. Dressed up, lots of banter, lots of laughing. The competition rules are fairly loose. However, it's to demonstrate fearsome camaraderie and team spirit on the road, not only within your own team, but with the other teams that are around you. You need to finish with all 12 riders who started, and again within that 10-minute cut. And dressing up and keeping yourself loud and proud will obviously count in your favor. So the team will take home a floating trophy. That trophy does come back. A floating trophy and a bottle of Van Loveren Papillon Chardonnay to each rider on the team. Prize giving will take place underneath the shade tent, which is where you'll be eating your food offering, and that will take place at 4:30. The podium recognitions for those of you that are racing are going to open teams, 1, 2, and 3, women, ladies teams, 1, 2, and 3, mixed teams, 1, 2, and 3, the first tandem team, the fastest Charles Milner team, so that's the fastest team with all 12 riders home, the fastest all women's team with all 12 riders home, and then the fastest mixed all 12 with all 12 riders home. So that's the mixed Charles Milner team. And then obviously at the end, the Van Loveren Award for Best Team Spirit. To qualify for any of the above categories, all cyclists must be wearing their own valid timing chips. If you don't have a timing chip on, we don't know that you're riding. We can't guess. The timing system is smart, but not that smart. So please, folks, make sure that when you start, you have a timing chip on you. If you don't, it's not going to read. We won't know that you were participating. Very important. Right, before we go into questions, I would like to extend a very special thank you to our sponsors. These events don't happen without an incredible set of sponsors that get behind the event, have belief in it, and come out every year and support us. So to Coronation Fund Managers, really on behalf of the 3,200 odd cyclists that will be taking to the course on the day, a very big thank you. They have been wonderful sponsors over the last 11, 12 years. And then there are a number of ancillary partners, our friends at Avis, Coca-Cola and Peninsula Beverages, Fresh Stop, who are together with Coronation providing the food offering that you will get. A big heads up to them. It really is a quality offering. There's South African Breweries, the Western Cape Government, Van Loveren, Thule, Bredenet, who will be providing everybody at the finish with free internet connectivity. So if you're low on data, you know where to get your data. Obviously, from a safety perspective, our friends at MediClinic have been absolutely superb, and we're really pleased to have them back on board this year. Obviously, our thanks as an organizing team go to our Board of Trustees and to the team at Pedal Power Association, who are actually the owners and custodians of this event. And a very big thank you for them for entrusting the organization of this event to us. Right, so we look forward to seeing you on the start line on the 24th of November. What we're going to do now is that voice in the background has been collating some of the questions that have come through, and there's some crib notes that we're going to be given from one of our team that is sitting at home, passing notes through to us. So, Mr. Clark, we know you're out there and we know you've got the answers, so keep them rolling. I'm going to hand over to John to ask me the questions, and we'll answer them as best we can.
Okay, what is the average speed for a first timer to be able to make the cutoff?
As quickly as possible, John. Okay, so if you're intending to finish within the cutoff, you need to maintain an average speed of about 20 kilometers an hour. Remember that the two untimed zones, that's the zone from Montague through to Ashton and the Ashton feed zone, when you're in those time zones, that does not count. So, but in the feed zone itself, you only have 30 minutes. If you decide to spend 45 minutes in the feed zone, your time will automatically start rolling at 30 minutes. So you get a free 30 minutes. If you leave earlier, your time will start rolling the minute the first rider crosses the line. So if you send somebody out of the feed zone early, remember that your team time starts when the first rider leaves the feed zone. So to answer the question then directly, you need to maintain an average speed of just over 20 kilometers an hour to make sure you get in under the cutoff.
How do you query your seeding?
Any seedings, the queries must be sent to, and I'm looking at my team because they have all the information up in front of me, info@coronationdc.co.za. So info@coronationdc.co.za. Any queries to your seedings, please, not to my personal email address or Donovan's. We're not very good at the seedings. It's info@coronationdc.co.za.
All right, I've put that on the screen now, so there's all the details there. Tell us details about the timing mats, Dave. I know there were details about that.
Right. So timing mats. Please make sure that at all timing mats, don't stop and wait before the timing mats. There's nothing worse than having teams congregating, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams congregating, waiting for riders to come in. When you get to a feed zone or timing mat, move across it. If you need to slow down to wait for riders, you're in neutral zones, you may do that further up the road. Don't stop within 100 meters of any timing mat. We need to keep those areas clear, and we need to keep the timing mats actually reading. So there are, just to double check, there are timing mats as you enter Montague, and that timing mat will then end once you enter the feed zone. Now, somebody posed the question, how do we know how fast you're going through the feed zone? It's very simple. We know because we know what time you enter not the feed zone, the neutral zone. We know what time you enter the neutral zone because we've got you crossing a start mat, and we know what time you enter the feed zone. We are not going to be able to monitor how fast you actually travel at any one point, but we will know that you've exceeded 30 kilometers an hour for the whole period if you exceed 30 kilometers an hour, because we'll be able to calculate that. But we're asking you to be responsible. We've received permission to go through this area, which is under construction from the provincial government, and we need you to help us toe the line.
Give us details about the mixed women's categories. They're starting quite close together this year.
That's an interesting question. The mixed women's categories. We don't have mixed women's categories. We
Sorry,
have
mixed
categories.
women and men.
Thanks,
it's written
John.
down badly.
So two issues. We're going to be starting the mixed teams in a grouping that's somewhere between the numbers 140 and 160, as I recall. But you will all be in that area, and you will see each other on the road. So you can keep an eye out for yourselves. Obviously, you're looking for teams that have both men's and ladies riding. You need to finish to qualify for a podium and to qualify as a mixed team finisher with 3 of your ladies in the 6 finishes that count for time. If you're finishing all 12, the ladies don't have to finish in the first 6. They just have to finish within the 12. The team time will stop when the third lady and 3 men obviously have crossed that finish line. Right, John, next.
All right, next question. Our team is staying in Montague. Can our support team drive directly to Ashton? What route will they take?
All right, so can I grab that one, Don?
Yeah.
Okay, so the answer is yes, you can. But remember that the Montague Pass closes, and those road closures Donovan referred to are going to be in the driver's manual.
Yeah.
So if they leave before the Montague Pass closes, that's fine. If they don't, your team support vehicle is not going to get to you.
And that closes early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just be aware of those road closure times. You'll find them in the booklet. If they move through before the road closure, then it's an easy hop through from Montague to Ashton.
Can you clarify if riding against the race direction is allowed? In other words, can you go fetch friends that have left behind?
No. You need to be moving. If you're part of the event, you need to keep moving in the same direction. If you need to wait for somebody, move off the road to the left-hand side and wait for them off the road.
Don't ride back on yourself.
No riding back on yourself.
Are CSA licenses required? It's from Pure Savage, by the way.
Team Pure Savage, yes. Team Pure Savage. These are the guys, folks, who didn't wave at me last week, so we have an issue with them. Only kidding. Team Pure Savage, yes. If you are intending to podium in the men's open and the ladies open and mixed divisions, you will be required to have a CSA license. Okay, that is very important. The racing element of this event is run under CSA regulations. There will be CSA commissaires present. So it's the open men and the open ladies division. You will be required to have a CSA license, and you need, if you think that you are in contention for a podium in those 2 categories, make sure that you have that license before you come to the event. If you do not have a license, the rider without the license will not receive a time, which means that if he was in one of the first 6, the next rider's time will count who does have a license. So please, folks, very important.
You mentioned, if a team consists of 11 riders, can you still qualify for the Charles Milner Medal?
No, unfortunately not. You need all 12 riders to start and finish to qualify for a Charles Milner. And that is the rule. It's all 12.
Somebody, Jean Pina wants to know where the beer tent is, because you didn't mention the beer.
So this one I'm going to hand over to Donovan, because that's not my expertise.
Yeah, no, the beer tent is there's a hall within the showgrounds where we'll be serving food. In that hall there is a bar available with loads of cold beers for you.
So you will receive a complimentary beer,
Yeah.
And then when you finish that one, there's a wonderful pub being run by the Rotary Club of Swellendam, and you're welcome to go and top up there.
That's it.
Vernon wants to know if the ladies are allowed to push the men.
Vernon, I may take issue with that. In my case, I'm hoping that the ladies...
I've seen it before.
In my case, we're definitely going to have the ladies pushing the men. Vernon, anybody's welcome to push anybody, but just do so in a very responsible manner.
Will international riders need a day license for potential podium positions?
Yes, they will. So again, we run under the rules of Cycling South Africa, and international riders will be required to have a license, and they will be required to present that to the commissaires prior to the prize giving, and that is only for those riders that are going to be going for podium positions. Just on the international riders, we are very excited, as most of you will know by now, that we've got Jan Frodeno and Daniela Rafe participating. These are 2 Ironman triathletes, and they'll be over here with the Breitling Triathlon Squad, together with Macca from Australia. Very excited to have them there. If you're a keen cyclist, keep your eye open for the 3 Breitling squads that will be riding for Quebec, and give them a cheer as they go through. My belief is they're here to participate, to raise money for their given charity, in this case Quebec. So give them a cheer and some support. They're not going for a podium, we hope. And you may spot the occasional famous face in their midst.
Including yours, Dave.
Not mine, Don, definitely.
Will there be Coke at the finish or water as well? Sorry, will there only be Coke, or will there be water as well?
There'll be Coke and water. Please just remember, when you come into that area as well, please grab a Coke and move through as quickly as possible, because what happens is a lot of the guys are tired and the girls are tired. They'll tend to stand there and drink their Cokes. There's a lot of people moving through that area, so grab a Coke and a water and carry on moving, please.
Push the wrong button. Okay, there we go. How long before the start must you be in the start chute?
Right. I'd love to know, ask that question because you weren't listening to me earlier. You need to be an absolute latest 20 minutes before your start time, be in your start chute. Absolute latest. My advice to you, having done this event a number of times, is to get there probably 45 minutes to an hour beforehand. That allows you to find all 12 of your teammates, get your stuff together, remember that so-and-so's forgotten their gloves and this one's forgotten their helmets, and then get into the start chute. So aim to be there 45 minutes beforehand, but in your start chute, a minimum of 20 minutes before your start time.
Correct.
All right, we're going back to a question from Karat. He says, maybe we misunderstood. If you start as a team of 10 at the start line and end at the line as a group of 10, are you eligible for that medal?
No, just again to qualify that. You need to start with 12 riders and finish with 12 riders to qualify for the Charles Milner. It is the original concept behind this event that was started by the Milners and Lawrence Whitaker some many years ago was based on teams of 12. And it was based on getting a group of friends all the way around a full 200-kilometer route. I would love to say that it is for teams of 12, and it may very well be that in future years teams of 10, that PPA may look at that rule, and certainly a recommendation we can look at. But for 2018, it's teams starting with 12 and finishing with 12, not teams of 10, sorry.
If you fall off a group, can you latch on to another group?
These are very difficult questions we're getting this evening. No, in actual fact, you may not. You're supposed to be riding with your team. If you drop off, you need to complete the race under your own rules, under your own steam. If you happen to get dragged along to a water point by a team passing through and they are not offended by you latching onto the back and the wind is not in your favor, but please make sure that you have okayed it with the team that you're joining, because what you don't want is to get into an altercation with the team. Technically, you should be riding that last bit on your own if you get dropped.
Tell us about timing chips. Do international riders need them as well?
Everybody needs a timing chip. Okay, now a timing chip is not only because we want to know your time, but for Donovan and his team sitting in the jock, they need to know who is where and when on the route. It enables us to manage our resource. It enables us to know that when somebody's wife or husband phones up, that we know that they've crossed the finish line, that they've crossed a feeding zone mat, etc., etc. So it's vitally important from a safety perspective that every rider has a timing chip that starts this event.
And they will be available at the registrations.
Yes, so there'll be timing chips available at registration, and there will be timing chips available at the start line from the Race Tech timing crew.
I'm not sure if we addressed this in the presentation. Tell us about the sock sizes, please.
Sock sizes. You need to have got onto your profile. Your team captain should have sent you a link. You can get onto your profile and you can input your sock size there. We have ordered, and it's very difficult because there's a lead time on socks. So we've ordered a break on socks based on historical orders that we've placed. But you are able to go online so that we can prepare those bags for you and input your sock size in your profile if your team captain hasn't already done so.
Our rights are reserved.
And then I think just to wrap it up, will this be available online?
Yes, indeed, it will be available online. So this will be saved and will be available on YouTube for you to watch, and a link will be forwarded out not only to you as team captains, but also to all those teams who were unable to watch. We know that a number of teams, and our own Super Eric from the office here is sitting with his wife's team watching this, and a number of teams have got together with Bryce. I've absolutely no doubt that my friends at Pure Savage are sitting there quaffing a couple of beers. Guys, we're thinking of you. I'm going to wave very, very boldly as you come past, and I'll pray and hope that I get a wave back from you. I think from Don and I,
thank you very much.
All that remains is to wish you a safe ride. Remember, this is a whole lot of fun. Go out and enjoy it.